Welcome back from the break. If you're just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust TV. We're moving on to reviewing our national dailies this morning. And first, as usual, we kickstart with the Daily Trust, and the bolder headline states, we uncovered mind-boggling corruption in oil sector, says EFCC. You can read that story on page 3 and 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper. And then just above the bolder headline, Tinubu did not make Buhari president, says boss Mustafa. You can read that story on page 5 of the Daily Trust newspaper. UAE reviews visa process for Nigerians, bans transit application. You can read the story on page 23 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Plateau crisis, reps panel invites Mutwang Lalong to security conference. You can read the story on page 21 of the Daily Trust newspaper. And then just below the bolder headline, strike, FCT moves third term extension for primary schools. The story is on page 24. I'll defeat Matawale before 10 a.m. on election day, says Zamfara governor. You can read the story on page 12 of the Daily Trust newspaper. And then also we have 13 killed as bandits attack Niger communities, 30 gunmen neutralized in Katsina. You can read the story on page 6 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Do well to grab yourself a copy to get more informed. Hawa?
All right, next up, we have The Guardian. On The Guardian, right at the front page, we have international travel restrictions spark fresh row over absence of ambassadors. That is on page 6 of The Guardian newspaper. At the top left, we have EFCC decries mind-boggling fraud at NNPCL, wants unexplained wealth criminalized. That's on page 3 of The Guardian. We have 2027, don't underrate Tinubu, Ribat warns opposition. That's on page 3 as well of The Guardian newspaper. We have UAE bans transit visas, imposing stricter entry rules for Nigerians, which coincides with the restrictions that spark a fresh row over the absence of ambassadors. And at the bottom, we have mutual funds rise by 105% to 5.9 trillion naira in H1 on higher demand yields. That's on business page, on page 18 of The Guardian newspaper. We have Japa. Canada raises minimum proof of funds to 17 million naira per immigration. That is on page 2 as well of The Guardian newspaper. If Niger attack claims 13 as 20 bandits die in Kwara. Again, 20 gunmen raid Aguata local council and kill 4. Now, delegates will decide who gets ADC's presidential ticket, says Atiku spokesperson. That is an interesting one. I would like to see how that plays out as well. That's on page 6 of The Guardian newspaper. All right, Mimina, what do we have next?
Okay, we move to This Day newspaper, where the bolder headline states, Boss Mustafa, Buhari allowed institutions to work, prioritize structure over showmanship, says ex-president's constant 12 million votes birthed his presidency in 2015. Tinubu, my predecessor, showed humility, restraint, maturity in exercise of presidential powers. You can read the story on page 9 of This Day newspaper. And then also we have visa. Okay, federal government urges U.S. to reconsider single entry decision. You can read that story on page 9 of This Day newspaper. And just above the bolder headline, Lukman, coalition will avoid past mistakes of Atiku Obi to defeat Tinubu in 2027. You can read that story on page 9 of This Day newspaper. Hawa?
All right, I believe that's all for the papers. Joining us to review some of the headlines of the pages of today's newspapers is the editor-in-chief of Dateline in Nigeria, Nasiru Lawal. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us. Good morning.
All right, I think we'll kick off with Daily Trust. Right in front, we uncovered mind-boggling corruption in oil sector, says EFCC, and we know there have been speculations of corruption all through the oil sector. What is your take on this and EFCC's declaration?
Well, as far as corruption is concerned in the oil sector in Nigeria, I don't think the EFCC chairman actually said anything new. This is something that we, have known long ago. Rightly or wrongly, people have this perception that there are so many underhand dealings, behind the scenes that, characterize transactions in the oil and gas sector. If you remember, even the passage of the Petroleum Industry Act, it took like over 20 years to realize that. And so many people are blaming that on the corruption in the oil sector. Actually, the EFCC chairman said so many other things at that event, one of which is the issue of unexplained wealth. He said, he has been pestering the lawmakers to give him a law so that he can be able to fight corruption more effectively. And, the fact that even last year, he said the last dispensation, the bill, was killed somehow. So if we are able to do that, even though so many people say that he made that statement in the wrong place, because most of these lawmakers that you see
are part of the problem.
Yeah, the kind of wealth that they are brandishing all about, they can't just explain it, because we know they are not businessmen. We know what they were doing before becoming members of the National Assembly. And one good thing about records, even if it is a military general, if you go into the records, you will be able to know exactly what he earned as salary. Absolutely. And allowances and what have you. And then if there is any business that he is, engaged in, we should know, because the Constitution has made it clear that civil servants cannot engage in businesses, even though they can do agriculture and what have you. So there are so many things that if the members of the National Assembly can help us to come up with this law, honestly, I believe, yes, fighting corruption will have more effect than what it is happening.
Absolutely.
But I would also advise the EFCC chairman to find a way of reducing the amount of his media engagement, because somehow he is telling Nigerians more than they need to know. Because I remember when he said that if he failed to prosecute Yahaya Bello, he will even resign from his position. Yahaya Bello is now undergoing trial, but then, if you look at all the issues leading up to that event, I think he should talk less, so that his actions, what he is able to accomplish,
I like that,
will now come to the forefront.
Okay, so one other headline on the Daily Trust this morning: I'll defeat Matawale before 10 a.m. on election day, says Zamfara governor. He sounds so
confident,
sure, so confident of himself. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, politicians and politics, you expect him to say that. And even Matawale, if you are to give him the same opportunity, he's likely to say the same thing. Actually, it's the people of Zamfara State that will determine who their governor is going to be. And even if you are able to defeat him by 10 a.m., you will have to wait until the election is over. And then the INEC, has come up with all its announcements and what have you. That's when we will know, the winner of that election. But to say that you will defeat somebody, by 10 a.m. is just politics. And just like I said, if you are to give Matawale the same opportunity, he's likely to say exactly the same thing.
Sure that.
All right. With this persistent issue and the strike that was called off by, the school teachers, primary school teachers, the strike, FCT Mall's third term extension for primary schools. They're asking for an extension for the third term. What is your take on it, due to the fact that they've missed a lot and now an extension is being asked? And how do you think that in relation would affect the students as well?
Well, extension or no extension, they will have to find a way of recovering, the things that they have missed. And it's not because due to the fault of the students, it's not the fault of their parents. It's about authorities, those who have, sworn to, uphold the Constitution, to do what is right. And then somehow, they have abandoned their responsibility. I can't imagine, in a place like FCT, primary school students, remaining at home for this number of months. Honestly, it's sad. And I hope now that the teachers are back, whether it's an extension, whether it's, they just need to find a way of recovering all the things that they have missed, because their colleagues across the country, must have, gone way ahead of them. And like I said, it's not due to the fault of the students and not the fault of their parents. So the authorities should make, this like an important issue. They should give it a priority so that all the things that these pupils have missed, they will find a way of recovery.
All right.
Okay, so we also have one other headline. Federal government begins phase 7 mass trials of terrorists. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's important because somehow we how can I even put it? Because, they have been doing this trial for quite some time. I think this is like the headline is saying this is the 7th phase of it. Yes. And, I think the last one, the 5th phase, I think they were able to convict over 120 terrorists. So if they are able to continue with that, I think it will give some Nigerians some hope, that all these terrorists will not just be allowed to find a way of, coming back into the society to continue with their mayhem and what have you. If we're able to prosecute them, they have made so many orphans, they have, affected so many people in so many ways. So if we're able to prosecute them, I think it will be good. It will send a message even to those that are currently, in all these ungoverned spaces, unleashing terror on innocent Nigerians. If they know that, once you are arrested, the government will bring to bear, all the processes of the law. I think people will begin to sit up. But when you see that, you don't even know what is happening, for like over a year now, nothing has been said about, the trial. And these are people that we know have been arrested long ago. So you wonder what is happening, why it is taking so long for the trial to continue. But now that they are, resuming the trial, I think we should wait and see, how far they can go. I hope the prosecutors, the government, and all those that have a role to play in the trial, will come together and see to the success of it. Because if we allow, lawyers to come in with all their arguments, sometimes it will look as if it is even deliberate, just to slow down the process of the law. So if we can get everybody on board, I think it will send the right message to all those that are in the bushes unleashing terror on Nigerians.
Absolutely. Hawa?
All right. Let's look at a couple of stories. In one, on The Guardian, we know that Nigerians have experienced a couple of bans, should I say, or a ban from the UAE, and now there's a ban. The UAE has banned transit visas and imposes stricter entry rules for Nigerians. And when you go deep into the story, at a point it says that for people between the ages of 18 and 45 have to have someone that would accompany them. And then aside from that, 2 years later, international travel restrictions spark fresh row over absence of ambassadors. And, there have been complaints that the ambassadors have not been put in place, making sure that Nigerians, are represented properly. And then we have Canada raising its minimum proof of funds to 17 million naira per immigrant. So what is your take on all these issues that have presented themselves?
Well, unfortunately, this is what I would call unequal relationship. If a country is, frustrating your effort to get its visa, the natural thing to do is to reciprocate. Yes. But somehow, I think we are not like at par with them. How many people are, coming to Nigeria? If
from
you
the UAE,
put that, exactly. Side by side with the number of Nigerians leaving the country, and sometimes it's not, the fault of the government. Sometimes you see Nigerians, going to foreign countries, engaging in criminalities and things that, somehow have an effect, on all of us. And these are the reasons why, all these countries are coming up with these, unfriendly issues. But like I said, if the government can put its acts together, so many Nigerians will rather remain here, and continue with their life. It's when they begin to see that, they don't have any hope of making it right here in Nigeria, that's when they begin to go abroad and then sometimes end up in criminalities and what have you. So if the government can, get the economy working, like I said, nobody will want to leave his country, go to a foreign country that you don't even know. But for now, it's like, the only thing that some Nigerians can do. But if you look at the amount of money that some people are even spending to travel, like Canada mentioned, if you have that amount, why don't you, engage in a business in Nigeria? There are so many things you can engage in. You can do investments and what have you. And before you know it, you will be able to make a very good, comfortable living out of what you have. But right now, you will spend your money, leave the country, and then you end up with all these unfriendly policies.
All right. Well, quickly before we go, there's a particular headline that caught my eye, and a lot of people would be thinking, what would hold in the future? It says delegates will decide who gets ADC's presidential ticket, says Atiku's spokesperson. So, what do you think will play out when it comes to the coalition ADC in itself, and who is going to be on the ticket for the 2027 presidential election? Well,
I think it's not good for the ADC that so many people are referring to it as an Atiku-led coalition. So many people will begin to look at it as a movement that is just out there to for Atiku to realize his presidential ambition. Once you begin to do that, you begin to ostracize, others that are in the party, because he is not the only one with, presidential ambition. Already we have seen Peter Obi, we have seen Rotimi Amechi coming out to say that, they want to have a go at the presidency. So if we continue saying Atiku-led coalition, like I said, so many people will feel alienated and they will think, okay, this is just about Atiku and not about Nigerians. But it's good that they are coming out with explanations so that Nigerians will begin to know that, yes, they have a role to play.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Nasiru Lawal, for joining us and, expatiating on a lot of the stories that made it to the headline. With that, we've come to the end of... thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. With that, we've come to the end of Daybreak on Trust TV. Make sure you tune in tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. so that you do not miss out on interesting and engaging conversations as well. As always, I'm Hawa Ademikiawa. Thank you for watching.
And I am Mimuna Bagudu. Do not forget to follow us on all of our social media platforms and also subscribe to our YouTube channel for our live stream news and all other programs. I am Mimuna Bagudu. Do have a great day and stay out of trouble. Bye-bye.